Okay, so hello everyone. So good evening. Welcome to Unacademy's YouTube channel. So we'll just wait for 2 minutes. And I hope everyone can see as well as hear me. So just confirm that same thing to me. So through the comment so that we can go ahead with the session. So just confirm me the thing. So if you can see as well as hear me. So just confirm the same thing in the comments so that we can go on with respect to today's session. So one of the most important session is about the current affairs. Yes, okay. So good to know that. So basically one of the most important factor for the UPSC civil services examination is the current affairs. So basically when you look into this particular area, something called the current affairs, the most important fact and the most many aspirants often get confused with respect to this. About what to study remains a first question. Yes, what to study remains a first question. Before we go ahead, today we'll be discussing the strategy about what is to be covered and what is not to be covered. So in the next going on session, so we'll be discussing that particular aspect. Now, today's session would be specifically for the strategy for the current affairs. So now, many new aspirants, when they start preparation for the UPSC civil service examination, the first and the foremost thing is that everyone must do, not just someone who's just started, but everyone have to take up this particular thing, that is reading the syllabus. Reading the syllabus is very important, guys. When you don't know what is to be read and what is not to be read, that would be definitely a kind of waste of resources. Why is that so? Basically, when you look into every aspirant, each aspirant has a different kind of a background. For example, there must be some people who might be specifically from this particular area where they might be preparing along with this while they are working, and there are some people who are full time into the preparation. But now for all these things, if you want to identify what is to be read and what is not, firstly you have to go through the syllabus. And now if you look into the syllabus of the UPSC civil service examination, the other important point you have to understand from the syllabus is that it is very broad. As in, for example, they mention something in the syllabus that all the events after 1947. So from till where you will be covering. So this remains some question. And now today we'll be specifically focusing on the current affairs, as I have already stated. Now, all the people, basically any person, whenever you ask them about the current affairs, the first thing they say is Hindu. Yes, Hindu remains one of the primary source for the current affairs. And it is not just Hindu, by the way. Now, many people have always come to me asking me how we can cover Hindu and all these aspects. The thing is, whenever you talk about this current affairs, try to identify certain sources. For example, not all the time you will find the current events, everything is not in Hindu, by the way. So sometimes you actually have to go to some other sources too. For example, like Indian Express and others. So all these things are very important. So but again, we'll come back to that topic once again. But the fact is this: what is the importance of the current affairs? Firstly, let's try to understand this question, guys. And why? What is its importance? If you see, just read out the syllabus firstly. And when you read out the syllabus, you will find lot of things about various subjects you have. That might be about the geography, history, or you might be seeing about economy, polity, whatever the subject it is. Now, if you look into the mains or any other area, these will be linked to the current events. For example, recently we must have seen a lot of things happening. For example, the Kerala floods. Yes, Kerala floods remains one of the most important issue. And apart from Kerala floods, we have Odisha floods also, basically cyclones, Odisha cyclones. So there are many such kind of issues are going on. And how can we link that to the static? and how can it is linked to this current affairs? See, there is a linkage between here, guys. So when you look into a topic called disaster management, and this linkage with respect to the subject, like disaster management is a subject, basically is a part of the syllabus, but now you can relate that to the current events, like what are the technologies that are coming up, so how different kind of regional groupings are helping them. So all of these events can be covered from the current affairs. Now if you look into the mains also, the questions that will be coming up in the mains will be related to the current events, basically. And how surely I can tell that. So when you talk about this particular area, about how this particular current affairs can be there in the mains. So now, as I said, that there is a linkage between the subject and the current events. This is a very important point you have to understand. Linkage between the current affairs and subject. And now, the next important area is this. From where do we cover? As I already stated, Hindu shall remain the first source. But it is not the only source. Guys, do remember, it is not the only source. So there are multiple sources for that also. There are multiple sources for the current events on current affairs too. So for example, Indian Express. Like Indian Express also remains one of the biggest source for the current events and all. And now, there are many people who might say you that not to refer PIB. There are many people who might say this, but I don't agree with that. Yeah, I'll come to your question first. So just give me 2 minutes, I'll come to your question. So now, when you talk about the PIB again. So now PIB, like the Press Information Bureau, most of the news that it is coming up in the newspapers would be taken from the PIB. And now PIB remains the original source for majority of the happenings from the center level. The policy decisions on the government functioning will be coming from the PIB. And that is what you'll find that in the Hindu or Indian Express, whatever the newspaper it is, including the cabinet decisions and everything. And now coming to your question, Faiz, your question is that current affairs should be topic based or daily. So when you talk about the current events, I strongly suggest current affairs be dealt on a day-to-day basis. And why is that so? Why is that so? For example, many aspirants often commit some mistake of going through the complete current affairs like a kind of a magazine. Monthly magazine is something which is a new trend, basically, I should say. It's not your mistake, by the way. It's not your mistake that you're following the monthly magazine. And why I don't suggest the monthly magazine is this. You are saying they are the current affairs or contemporary things, or you could say current events or whatever the name you actually call it up. But the most important thing is, let's see, earlier before the elections, before the general elections, there was some case. Let me tell you now. With a basic example, I'll tell you. That was the Andhra Pradesh government has withdrew the general consent they have given to the CBI. That was later on followed by other states like West Bengal and all. So after a few days, now what happened after the elections have happened, again the new government has been formed in Andhra Pradesh. It has again given the general consent. So now what is happening in this particular happenings and all, Andhra Pradesh government withdrew, again it has given. So now this thing is actually a mess now. If you want to go through all the things at a time, it will be like you will not be completely aware. If you read it like what is general consent and all, that's not going to help you. This particular day-to-day happenings, if you can go on in a day-to-day basis, this would actually help you to think logically. Like what is happening, this would be linked to you. And you will be able to link that in a most easiest manner. That's why I suggest going to the current affairs on a day-to-day basis. And now, there is nothing wrong if you prefer magazines or any sessions or any kind of videos on Unacademy or so. So there's nothing wrong for the revision purpose. But I strongly recommend you to go to the current affairs on a day-to-day basis, come whatever. So this is the single suggestion from my side I can give you, Faiz, with respect to that. Okay. So if anyone else has any questions, you can feel free to ask me. I don't have any problem in that also. Right. So now the other important source. Like some people ask me now, there used to be some people used to ask me, whether shall we prepare the current affairs for the prelims or for the mains? Again, this is a big question now for majority of the people, isn't it? So now, what is going to happen here in the prelims perspective and the mains perspective? Firstly, I don't suggest to differentiate it. Rather, have a complete understanding about this. For example, very recent news that was there is this: Google has stated very clearly that we have achieved the quantum supremacy. Now, what you can do, if you are specifically focusing on the prelims, you will try to understand what is quantum supremacy. But now, in the mains oriented, that is not going to help you. Then what is important here? You have to know what is this quantum supremacy, and what are the drawbacks it has, what are the advantages it has. So you have to go, a comprehensive understanding has to be going on with respect to the topic. So whenever you are going to the current affairs, I strongly recommend you to prepare that in a both mains and prelims perspective, but not especially for the prelims. If you prepare for the mains, ultimately that is going to help you in the prelims. So you don't have to categorize that into prelims, mains and such kind of thing. Okay, so that is with respect to the importance. And now the other important source I would like to tell you today is this about the spotlight. There is something called spotlight or news analysis of All India Radio. So guys, very, very interesting and important suggestion from my side it is. It is the very important suggestion from my side, that is news analysis. So every day you must go through this. So every day they will be updating a topic. This is just a 15-minute interview sort of thing. That would be taken up with some kind of a subject experts. It is very important for you to go through this. So news analysis is something. For example, a recent thing was there, block development elections have happened, BDC elections have happened in Jammu and Kashmir. Now you can understand what is the ground reality that is going on, how that is happening. Some experts in that area would be coming, and the interview of just 15 minutes, guys. Every day it would not go beyond 15 minutes. If you can make a note out of that particular interview, that is going to help you a lot. This is very important from my side. Please try to make a notes out of it, and I'm sure you will enjoy this a lot. You will love learning much of the content from this particular news analysis. Yes. Now the next thing, and if you have enough time, if you want to attain more knowledge on the current happenings and all, knowing about the things. So the Rajya Sabha TV debates, basically, especially in the RS TV, you will have the big picture. There's something called the big picture. So this actually takes you to some detailed understanding of the topics. This would be a 30-minute one. This is the other source for the current affairs. And now, yes. So that is about this particular areas. And now the other important thing I would like to tell you, the bills. The bills remains a very important component. It's like you must be seeing, in the mock papers and all. So in some context, Rajya Sabha also works same thing. Yeah, that's what I have stated, Pavan, right? The Rajya Sabha TV, in that we have a big picture. So that is a 30-minute one. So that would be a great discussion, would be taken up from multiple side of people. And in case if you have enough time, you can go through it. And in case if you don't have much time to go through it, you can actually just, must, and I strongly recommend this with respect to the news analysis of All India Radio. This is my suggestion, and I request all of you to take it up for sure. Try to make a notes out of it. I'm sure you will love this particular discussions, guys. And definitely will come back to me stating that you have liked it, that for sure. Now, from 18th now the parliament session is also going to be started. However, now in this particular category, now the bills. For example, there was a bill that was introduced few months ago in Lok Sabha, for say, that is DNA technology, regulation bill. So this is a DNA technology regulation bill. In various countries in the world, yes, so in various countries in the world, basically what happens is that, in various countries in the world, we have certain kind of regulations about how the DNA technology has to be used. But in India, we don't have proper regulations on the side of the government. So government has introduced this bill called DNA technology regulation bill. So where the government stated, we'll be coming up with some kind of a dedicated labs and such kind of things, so that we can take up a DNA testing, whatever is happening, that would be regulated from the side of a government. But what happened here? Opposition parties have stated that there is some issues. Okay, Now what is the issue? Here I'm not going to discuss what is the issue basically, but now what is going to happen when the bill is introduced, the opposition parties stand and say that this has some problem, and now they, when they given chance, like what is the problem, they try to let them the problems know. For example, opposition parties have stated the problem of privacy concerns. What if this data is misused? So this kind of queries can be there. So from this you can understand again the other important fact, that you can understand the bill in a most elaborate way rather than the government knows. Like you can understand, like in case you often find some questions in the mains asking you to critically analyze. So in such kind of questions you can get lot of points from this discussions. So the parliamentary discussions are very, very, very important in this particular case. Now, so if anyone has any queries with respect to the current affairs preparation or something, you can please let me know firstly before we go ahead. I'll try to deal with some questions from you. Yes, please. Yeah, even Deshantar is also one of the good thing. But you know what happens is this, Shubham. So when you are looking into this aspects of preparation and all, so the time constraints matters a lot basically. And when you're talking about the time constraints and all, you have to manage certain things. And that's the reason why I did not talk about all the programs, right? Right. If anyone has any queries, yes, please let me know. Okay, timing of this AR, basically you have this particular thing. I'll tell you the website also. The website is newsonair.gov.in. So in that you will have this particular, in the bottom you will find this particular recording basically, Pavan. So you'll have this recording. You don't have to go through it every day. Just follow certain time. For example, when you are preparing a plan or a schedule about how the preparation is going on. So for example, daily you are going through that at 8:30 in the evening. So please try to follow that at every day. You will have a new topic by that time. So that would be the best thing, I guess. Like, every day fix a timing, and from that you can actually download the audio. It's just a 15-minute audio clip, Pavan. It is not a live one you are going to listen, but it's just a 15-minute audio. You can download it, and from that interview you can make notes out of it. Okay? Yes. Yes. Anyone else has any queries about the preparation of current affairs or something? Please let me know. Yes. So now the thing is, as I said, guys, please do not depend on the magazines. Please do not depend on the magazines, especially for the current affairs as a monthly one. I don't recommend that strongly. And it doesn't mean that I'm against or some magazine or something like that, but it's because, current events have to be on a current basis, on a day-to-day basis, or at least once in a 2 days. But please do not focus completely like any other GS subject. There is no difference. Like when you do that solely when you are depending on the current affairs on a magazine, so there will be no difference between a GS and the current affairs. Hope you are getting this. So between the current affairs, between the current affairs and between the GS, there has to be some difference. And yes, so that cannot be there. So please look into that also. Yes. So any queries? Now coming to the common mistakes. Yes. So this is one of the common mistake now. This is one of the common mistake that people do. That is blindly following the magazines. Now, blindly following some magazines is some common mistake which people do. Second thing is this, not at all, there is something people don't show a difference between GS and the current affairs. Following multiple sources. When you are sticking to something, just stick on to that. Do not involve other sources and confuse you. Okay, so do not make it in a different pace, and it will confuse you for sure. And now the suggestion I would like to give you here is this: wherever there is a possibility, link the current affairs with GS. Link it. Okay, now link the current affairs with the GS. So that's the most important thing I strongly suggest. it doesn't mean that you are completely reading that in that way, but rather you are linking the current affairs to the GS, which makes the process of learning both current affairs and GS much easier. So this is one of the most important thing every aspirant must do. So what to do if you don't understand a topic? So Fayaz, if you are there on an academy, so I'm already there, I'm always there for you. If you have any doubts, you can always message there. So the other thing is this, so it's better if you do not understand what is the second point here, that is treating GS equal to the current affairs. Both are not equal at all, so please do not do that. Both are not equal at all. What happens, like GS, people read magazines a lot, the current affairs, this is the most important problem basically. GS equal to current affairs, not at all, it's not at all equal. So try to avoid doing this. Yes. And now basically when you are religiously following some kind of a source, just follow that, and do not get confused with multiple things. Many aspirants have many sources, by the way. Many aspirants have many sources. Now when you are following some source, please follow that religiously, whatever it is. But what happens is that many aspirants looks into what my friends are doing, what other aspirants are doing, so they have much and I don't have much. Do not compare in this particular manner. You have to compare, but when in the area of competition, in the area of examination, like in the mock test or whatever you are writing, so do compete in that way, but not in the sources basically. Now what actually matters in the case of rank basically, let me tell you, I always have stated this thing to you. Again, I'm telling you once again today, guys. The thing is, what matters to aspirant is this, the score of mains. The score of mains actually matters to an aspirant. And now, when you want to focus on the score of mains, guys, the preparation has to be mains oriented when you have much time. Until 3 months before the exam, please do not focus on the current affairs of other months. Only in the in the end of last 3 months we can focus on the prelims based perspective, but till then please try to prepare in the area of mains, try to practice answers, try to make out the questions from the current affairs, and that will help you a lot. Okay, so I hope everyone has got some kind of understanding, and if anyone has any doubts, please feel free now to tell me ask me any questions. I'll be here to solve your questions. Yes, any doubts or anything in this preparation of the current affairs? So that is what. So now the other important thing I want to tell you here is this, make a schedule for the current affairs for sure. In that schedule, one second, I'll just try to write it. So make a schedule in such a way, daily at least 1 hour you should dedicate to the current affairs, at least 1 hour. And additionally, air news is mandatory, guys. So please do this. So when you can do this particular things, and then when you do this and link that to the GS, so that would be the best thing that you can do for the current affairs. So I'll just give a brief about what have we said. The first thing is this, alone a single source like Hindu will not be sufficient. Try to look into multiple sources. In the case newspapers and all, not multiple, so in the sense multiple magazines. No, it's not that multiple magazines. I mean to say multiple newspapers, or we could say PIB, as I said, AR news and all. So please try to look into them. Please do not just follow on one newspaper. That is not going to be sufficient for you. And now avoid some mistakes. Do not completely depend on magazines, and these are the things that every aspirant must do. And the simple suggestion is this, so PIB, newspapers, radio, All India Radio's news analysis, and RSTV debates. So this is the thing that I can suggest you, and I'm open to the questions now. If anyone has any questions, please ask me now. If anyone has any questions in the current affairs thing, so I'll be waiting for 1 or 2 minutes, and if you have any questions, I'll talk about that. Else, we can wind it up. Yes, please. So now, so I'll just wait for the questions, please. From which month? Okay, we shall focus. So basically, in general, 1 year is minimum, Shubham. 1 year is at least minimum. So basically, if you can cover from Jan 2019, it would be okay. It would be great basically. But you can cover from May 2019, to till we could say March or April would be sufficient. So this would be sufficient. This is mandatory. But if you can cover from January, that would be great. And now, as you have asked this question, Shubham, let me answer this in a different case also. Now, what if some current affairs comes from 2 years, 3 years? And thus there is a possibility. And in such case, we cannot do anything, right? So there was a question in the mains this time talking about some project called Cyber Dome project. There's a project called Cyber Dome project, which was actually a question in the mains. And you know what? This particular news was in current affairs 2 years ago. That was there in the news in the current affairs 2 years ago, not recently. And you can understand this. So it's a broad area, but it's recommended that we have to do at least from 1 year of the current affairs preparation. And if you can do that from Jan, that would be really great. So, but this is very important for you to go. Because it's always a scoring, and you cannot say that we are not getting much questions from the current affairs. So in the prelims, these are interconnected basically, as I said. From the mains perspective, you can benefit a lot from the current events. Like for example, there is something which was in the news recently, that is one nation, one ration card scheme. So when you are learning about one nation, one ration card scheme, try to link that to the green revolution. Try to link that to the public distribution system. What are the problems in this? What are the methods we have? So what are the suggestions we have to do? So in this way, you can actually learn a lot from the current affairs after the GS. So and that will help you a lot in scoring benchmarks. Okay, right. So any questions yet? As I said, sorry, it's March 2020, okay? It's March 2020. Yes. So you can start from the May to March or April, that would be fine. Most probably April will not be there. This time exam is also very near, right? In the May month end, right? So just try to see that 1 month before the exam would be great. At least 1 month before the exam. Right? So no others have any questions? Yes, in case if you don't have any questions, we can just wind it up the session. So just let me know, be fast. So in case if you have any questions, I'll be taking up the questions. But do recommend the sources, guys. As I said, do remember the sources. Like go through the newspapers of Hindu for sure. Yes. Go through the newspapers from Hindu for sure. And Indian Express is also really very good. And apart from that, you can go through the AIR news. Please don't forget that. It is very, very important. That will help you both in prelims and mains, guys. Prelims and mains, in both perspectives, that is going to be very important. So make it a part of a daily schedule. That is really going to help you a lot. Okay, so yes, okay, right. So thank you so much. Now in case if no one has any issues, so before we wind it up, guys, so Unacademy has come up with the plus model. I think every one of you know this. So where live sessions would be taken up by the top educators, and that is going to help you a lot in your preparation. And this is my referral code where you can use it to get a discount of 10% off on Unacademy Plus subscription. So do check it out. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you all again in the next session whenever we're coming. So do subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much and good night. Bye-bye.